Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Higgins from the Cincinnati Railroad Club. We're welcoming Trevor Rost to tonight's presentation, Into the Light. Good evening, Trevor.
Hello. Thank you for having me out today, and thank you to everyone who could attend. Yeah, my name is Trevor Rost. I have been doing rail photography since 2017, but I have been a rail fan my whole life. I grew up watching Thomas, and that led me into getting into real railroading. And 2017 is when I combined that with photography, when I learned about the Cheyenne Frontier Days train alongside Union Pacific 844. I went out and I took photos of it leaving Denver. And ever since then, I have been in love with not just rail photography, but steam locomotives as a whole. Um, in doing so, I found the steam locomotive to be a very fascinating subject. There is a lot of different aspects that you can focus on, whether it's the small individual components that make up the greater machine or the overall grand spectacle of a steam locomotive in operation, or the people that are running it, or even the facilities that surround it. It's all very interesting, and there's so much that you can do with it. And in doing that, I found one specific way that stood out to me, and that's what this presentation is about. This is Into the Light. It's focused on a specific style in which you kind of go against what is considered the norm. If you've ever taken a basic photography class, they'll tell you that you should try to have the light to your back so that the subject is well lit. And that is a good thing to follow most of the time. But I find that there are opportunities where you can break that sort of norm and still yield really great results. Um, and not everything in this presentation will be quite as dramatic as the photo you're looking at now, but it will generally still follow the theme, and I'll be sure to touch on that as we get there. But we can hop right in and talk about where this idea came from in the first place. Earlier this year, I got to go to the Nevada Northern Railway as part of their Young Photographers Scholarship. And while I was there, I got to talk to another photographer, another one of the winners. His name was Brian McKenzie. And we were having a conversation as I snapped the photo that you're looking at right now. That conversation was about how I felt that a lot of the times people seem to shy away from shooting on the shady side. And I can understand why. Like I said before, it's a general convention to shoot with the light. That's just how photography works. But there's still a lot of aspects that look good when you are on the shady side. And this photo didn't exactly pan out as I had planned exactly, but there's still elements to it that I really like. If you look just to the left of the locomotive up front here, you can see that there's still these little pieces of steam that are catching the light very nicely. You can still somewhat see the steam coming out of the stack also doing that, but it ended up kind of getting lost in the sky there. Um, but yeah, that conversation made me think a lot more about it and how much I really was fascinated by it. And my that led me to wanting to make this presentation in the hopes that maybe any other photographers or artists watching this will be inspired not to necessarily do exactly this, but to be more comfortable experimenting and exploring more with their craft. Because before this, I was very rigid and straightforward with following convention. And ever since I took the opportunity to branch out, I found myself enjoying my work a whole lot more. And I want to have other people be able to experience that. So this will be in chronological order, kind of showing my journey in discovering it and kind of honing my skill with it. And of course, I am not the first person to ever come up with this idea. Not even slightly. Photography has been around for countless years at this point, and rail photography for almost a similar, if not the same amount of time. And so there are, of course, places that I was inspired by, namely the works of John Gruber. A lot of his work from the narrow gauge Rio Grande features this type of photography where everything is backlit. Here's one with a couple K37s in a yard, and there's, at first glance, it might not seem super special, but I think there's a lot here that is special, namely the steam that you can see coming out of the stack here. It has that nice backlighting, and you can even still see some of it coming off of that one in the back there too. It really makes the steam pop out in a way that typical front lit doesn't really accomplish. And with that, it also kind of brings out that or contrasts that dark, shady side of the locomotive that you get. And with this one specifically, it was taken later in the day or early in the morning, and so you can see that there's these nice long shadows coming out too that help kind of break up the coherence of the ground. It creates something that's a little more interesting to look at because there's more or less uniformity. And on top of that, you also have the rails in the foreground too. By going at this angle, the light reflects off the railhead a lot more. And so beyond the contrast of just the steam and the dark of the locomotive, you also have that bright reflection coming off the rails, which is very pleasing to look at. And that's just one of his that I have really enjoyed. Another one is this one right here that very prominently features the shafts of light coming down from the sun. You can just barely kind of make out the sun right there in the steam cloud. And the rays of light, they almost block out the subject, but not quite. It's enough to where you can still make out the whole thing, and it works more as an accent than an obstacle. I find these very special when you can get them because the conditions have to be just right. There has to be just enough stuff in the air, but not too much to where it's blocking everything out. And it creates this effect like you're looking at something that is being bestowed upon you from the heavens. Like this is something man was never meant to lay eyes upon. And John Gruber was really good at that. This is not the only one that features this. Here's another one of another K37. This one also has a nice lens flare in there too. Lens flares are sometimes difficult to work with, but the fact that he managed to incorporate it in such a nice way here to where it's not blocking anything, it's just complementing those rays of light shining down. Here's my absolute favorite out of his. This looks like it was taken at night. Not necessarily the sun creating those rays of light, an artificial light, but it still is just so magnificent. It's so atmospheric. And another feature of this one is over here, you don't just have the rays of light, but you have a ray of shadow as well. There's that little hatch on top of the cab there that's creating this cut in there that's, again, breaking up that uniformity and creating a very interesting picture that I have continued to aspire to try and recreate whenever possible. So yeah, that's where a lot of the inspiration comes from. And of course, John Gruber also isn't the only person to have done this. I've drawn a lot of inspiration from the works of Jim Shaughnessy, Victor Hand, and Robert W. Richardson. I have a mountain of books of photos that I just scour through and look for inspiration for. But yeah, these are the ones that just really stuck out to me specifically. But that brings me to the first time that I got to shoot towards the light. And that was in September of 2021 when I got to attend my first ever photo charter. This was a Trains magazine photo charter featuring Rio Grande Southern number 20 on the Cumbres and Toltec. It was visiting from the Colorado Railroad Museum, and I didn't want to miss that opportunity. And as seems to be the rule, if you do a photo charter on the Cumbres and Toltec, of course, we had to do sunrise at Ferguson's Trestle. And I had never shot in these conditions before. So this was my very first time experiencing something like this, and it immediately caught me. Even today, I love looking back at this sequence of photos from this charter. Even though I wasn't super experienced and I wasn't being quite as intentional as I am nowadays with like my composition and stuff, but it still just turned out so beautiful, and is I think what really started me on this path of kind of looking for ways to shoot more like this. This one in particular has always been my favorite because for those who may not know, that lettering on the back of the tender there is colloquially called the Sunrise Herald of the Rio Grande Southern. And I just happened to time this one perfectly to where the sunrise in real life lined up with the Sunrise Herald, creating what I like to call a double sunrise at Ferguson's Trestle. But yeah, there's a lot to this that I really liked beyond just the sun poking out from under the tender. You have the person in the cab in the gangway here. They are a lot more prominent than they typically would be if they were lit from the other side, because you get this sharp black outline contrasted by the black background behind them. So they stand out a lot more. You have a little bit of that color in the steam now, where it's typically just like, white, black, and gray. There's now this bright orange coming through, and we'll see more of that a little later. But that's a color that you typically don't see in there, and it is, that beautiful sunrise colors that everyone loves to see. And now it's being reflected onto the subject itself. And then also below the trestle itself, you have all this little foliage down here, and when light hits the back of foliage, much like steam, it glows and creates almost additional light sources in a way where your eyes are kind of drawn to it, because it's, like I said, it's like glowing. It's very appealing to look at. And here's another one from there. This one is more silhouetted. And again, you have that person in the gangway, very prominent, but this one, the steam cloud is a bit more thick. And so you get these really bright oranges and yellows in here. And the parts that don't catch the light have these really nice blues and purples that complement it. And going back to those plants again, when the exposure is stopped down, not only do they glow, but they glow at the very tips and almost in a red hue that you can see down here, which is, again, very appealing. And I love how that looks. Here we move a little bit past the sun now. The sun isn't in the shot anymore, but we still have a lot of great light features going on. Again, we have the light coming through and hitting the foliage. And but this time now we have a lot more shadow going on. And something that I've noticed at sunrise and sunset is that shadows take on color too. It's not just dark. You get, especially at the early and late times of the day, purple hues appear in there, and blues as well. So I lent into that when editing this photo. You can see that there's that contrast between the orange light coming out from under the trestle and the bluish purple shadows here, and as well in the steam as well. Try to get some more purples out of that. Here we lean fully into that with it now being completely past the trestle and just on that little bit of elevated track. The whole train is in shadow, but it still looks very nice because, like I said, that purple tone that I really tried to bring out, and it's complemented by just that slight orange tinge on the steam up here, as well as this nice edge lighting that you get right here on the railings and the fixtures on these coaches here, and just a little bit here on the cab too. That's another feature that I have come to really like, is when you get just barely that light reflecting on the edge of something, it really makes it pop out, and it looks a lot less flat. It gives a lot more depth and a lot more detail and just a lot of stuff to look at in a photo. So this was my first experience with it. And like I said, I wasn't really being super intentional with this. This was me learning. And, I'm lucky enough to live in the age of digital cameras. And so with that, at this point, I was really just rapidly firing the shutter, just see anything that might work. But at a certain point, I had to learn. I had to not just fire my camera willy-nilly. I had to get more intentional with what I was doing. And this photo right here is where that all began, because this was during the Colorado Railroad Museum's Colorado Crossings event in May of 2022. I liked this photo a lot at the time. This was 491 doing a blowdown early in the day on the turntable. And you might notice that the entire side that I'm shooting is in the shade. And I didn't pay any attention to that at the time and didn't think much of it until I tried to upload this photo somewhere. I tried to upload it to a website called railpictures.net. And anyone who isn't familiar with that website, it is a compendium of railroad photos, but it's interesting because it's not like other websites in which you can post photos, because nowadays we're very used to social media in which we can post anything at any time. But Rail Pictures has a team that moderates everything that comes in. You can't just post anything you want. It has to be vetted by them first. They have a goal of only having what they consider high quality photography on their site. And I went ahead and tried to upload this, and it got rejected. But the important thing was that it wasn't just rejected, it was rejected with notes. And the note that came with mine was that the subject wasn't lit properly. And that made something click in me because, like I said, I hadn't really considered that before or really put much mind to it. But now, having had that, I started to really think about that more when I was taking photos. And with that, that eventually led into what this presentation is about. But first, I had to get better at, shooting stuff the quote unquote correct way. And this was the first photo that I had taken after that fact. And I was really proud of it, and I still am. This was the first photo that really I took a lot of time to plan out. I made sure that the composition was nice and that there is interesting stuff to see. And I settled on this signal array west of Cheyenne. This was a big boy excursion in July of 2022. But yeah, I found this location and I thought it was nice, but I also very carefully planned out where the light was going to be. There's websites out there now where you can see where the sun will be in the sky on a certain day at a certain time. And I used one of those to figure out what side of the tracks I should be on so that the light would look good. And the results speak for themselves. I was very happy with this, and I ended up getting this one actually posted on the website. So I knew I was doing something right. But yeah, I was now being a lot more intentional with my photos and actually planning stuff out instead of, like I said, just kind of firing my shutter and hoping it worked out. And that brings us to my second photo charter, again on the Cumbres and Toltec. This was in October of 2022. This was the Toltec Rattler Redux. It aimed to recreate the first photo charter that ever happened on the Cumbres and Toltec back in 1972. And I was very lucky to have a lot of snow on this, something that you don't get to see very often on the Cumbres and Toltec. But here I was kind of taking what I learned and starting to kind of expand my bounds, as it were, or experiment more. And this photo is a good example of that, where I was shooting directly into the sun to try and capture this big plume of steam that was coming out. And emphasis on experiment with this one. If you couldn't tell, which I don't know if you couldn't by the blinding white light on the right, it was a smidge overexposed. Yeah, even in the age of digital, no adjustments can fix that over there, but I'm still pretty happy with it. I think there's some nice elements to it, but this just is an example of me kind of going out of the boundaries that I had just learned. Here is another example of that. I'm not shooting directly into the light on this one, but this is shooting on the side with less light on it. This is the shady side of the locomotive. Um, but I thought the view was better from this side. You can see what the other side looks like here. It's not a bad photo, not at all. The light is technically better, but I think the background on this first one is more interesting. And uh, again, as regular convention would say, the second photo has better light, but I think this one overall is a better picture, a better composition. And that also kind of goes for this one too. There is no light in this photo except for that in the sky. Um, Again, not necessarily shooting directly into the light, but it's showing my being more open to shooting in less ideal lighting conditions. This is at the Los Pinos curve. Um, I really like how the steam turned out, the dark gray smoke coming out, following the train as it rounds the curve, and just that last little light hanging in the sky there too, kind of complementing that yellow reefer car up front. As we made our way back to Chama on this day, it got very dark. And right as we got to the Cumbres Pass station, it was just about entirely dark. But the sunset or past sunset at this time was absolutely stunning. This photo that you see here is genuinely what it looked like in real life. It was this bright, vibrant orange along the horizon that transitioned into this beautiful, deep blue, clear sky, not a cloud in sight. Um, and At this time, most people had retreated back into the boxcars. And granted, it was probably because it was absolutely freezing, but I was eager to still get photos, and so I was still out there snapping pictures despite the frigid temperatures. And I'm really happy with that because you got these really nice silhouette shots of the station here, especially that signal there. Here's another one with the full station in view. You also have some of those trees on the left that just, help complete the photo and frame the station. And this is still one of my all-time favorite photos, proven by the fact that I use it in my logo. um, but yeah, this again, just further showing that you can still get really good results in the absence of what by convention is considered ideal conditions. Um, and I continue to explore that more. I know I said I focus mainly on Steam, but I do occasionally like to go out and shoot mainline operations. And here is the Winter Park Express leaving up on the Moffett subdivision out of Denver. With this one, I planned this one out based on the time change. The clocks had just changed in March, and because of that, the Winter Park Express actually departed before the sun had risen. And so, if you managed to catch it early enough, you could actually catch it with the sunrise, which you don't always get the opportunity to. And so I found this spot, and again, I used that same website to find where the sun would be so that I could have it be on the side to where you could get some of that reflection there. But again, I'm shooting, you can just kind of barely see on the right there. This is where the sun is here. So yeah, I'm shooting in the direction of the sun here. And Amtrak is really great for these interesting lighting shots because of that stainless steel car body that is on the passenger cars, because the light loves to dance off of it in just beautiful ways. And you get more of that edge lighting here on the ends of the locomotives and on the door frames and in the little waves of the steel there. Back to the Cumbres and Toltec once again. This is another photo charter, this time with 463 and a bunch of cattle cars. This shot here is, this was just kind of a test run by. This wasn't even necessarily for taking photos, but I still saw opportunity there regardless, because I got the chance to get a silhouette shot that has a background in it, which can be difficult because if the background also isn't getting light, then you lose the silhouette entirely. But this one, the background was far enough away that you have this blue haze that fades into the mountains, and that is able to break up the outline of the engine here. And even though this is supposed to be a silhouette shot, I opted to kind of keep it just barely bright enough so that you can still make out some stuff in here, like the little details in the holes on the cattle car and the flying Grande here on the tender. I also really love the sky here, because this is just before sunrise too. So you get this really nice yellow color that you don't get. It usually turns a much brighter orange once the sun actually comes up. And that just looks really good with that blue in the mountain range back there. This now is when the sun has actually come up, and you can see that that yellow back there is turned more of an orange color. But this, again, this wasn't exactly what the idea was for the shot here. This is at the lava tank. And the idea was to have that be in the photo, you know, have the engine coming by the water tank with the sunrise in the background. But I found on the lead up that there's still this very beautiful shot to get here, incorporating more of that edge lighting on the back few cars here. On the caboose, it's the most prominent, and more of that backlit foliage here. It looks really nice here because this was in October of 2023. So this is more towards or in the throes of fall. So all the grass and brush around there is already turning to like a brown and yellow color. And so when you have similarly colored light hitting it, it only accentuates it more. And like I keep mentioning with that glowing look on it, it really brings out just something that you don't typically get. And then of course have to talk about the steam here, just that beautiful rich orange color and this mix of like browns with it too, to add texture to it and not just make it super uniform. And then this was after we had gotten back to Antonito, waiting around for a night shoot to start. I wandered around the yard to get some nice shots, and this is taken through the engine house there. Both the garage doors were open, and 168 was sitting on the other side, and that allowed me to shoot through there and get this nice kind of like half silhouette shot. I think it's very atmospheric because you still have a little bit of that steam hanging in the air. You can see that it's a little bit hazy. And with the sun setting in the background, you get the orange shades and hues all throughout the sky and the little bits of background that you get to see. This then was day 2 of these charters, this time featuring 168 instead of 463. And this is another feature of backlighting that I really enjoy, which is when not just getting silhouette shots, but getting very minimalistic silhouette shots. This is again at Ferguson's Trestle, much like Rio Grande Southern 20, but the trestle, while it's typically the main subject, I find the elevated track all around it also very fascinating to shoot around, because since you're standing below it, there's nothing that you can see in the background. And so you can get shots like this where it's just this lone caboose in like nothingness. It's, you can really create compositions that almost look fake in a way. And it's really cool when you get opportunities to do that. Also really like with this one, the light catching the windows up here. You can just barely see some of that orange light hitting it. So it stuff like that that's able to kind of ground it somewhat in reality. And then we have the engine itself here, also on that elevated track. I really am in love with the steam on this one. It's kind of similar to that previous one with 463. But it's so much more pronounced here. You have so many different shades of orange and brown all through it. I have never seen any other photos where the steam looks quite like this. It's just truly beautiful, in my opinion. And you also have kind of a similar thing going on down here with brighter colors, more like kind of orange and peachy colors happening there. Alongside that super minimalist silhouette of engine 168. And then here they were doing a little bit of maintenance and took that opportunity to get some photos of people at work. And again, this is very minimalist. There's not a lot going on. The subject is the only thing really in the photo. And that light hitting the steam really complements that shade of blue in the sky that's there. And I really like that you can just barely make out the outline of the worker here. He almost kind of gets lost behind the bell, but you can just barely make him out putting oil on a component up there. We're back again with Amtrak. This is, again, the Winter Park Express. This time in 2024. Again, I'm not necessarily shooting directly into the light on this one, but I am on the shady side. And I use this to my advantage because the field in front of me was completely in the light. And because of that, it took on this orange color. And knowing that the shadows tend to appear blue and purple at this time of day, alongside being able to have that kind of reflect off of the Amtrak cars, I was able to create a nice complementary color thing going on here with the blues going through the Amtrak train set and then the nice orange field in the foreground. And then this was the same day, but instead this is the California Zephyr going through Littleton Curve on the Moffett subdivision. This one is more directly against the light, and this allowed for this nice streak of light that you can see going all across the top of it. It makes it stand out against the just kind of flat, not necessarily dark, but darker landscape around it. So even though it's very small and almost impossible to see at first glance when you look at it, it stands out because of that. And it's also assisted by that light coming in from the back and hitting the smoke coming out from the exhaust too, making it stand out and be brighter, like I've mentioned before. But now we get into I've at this point I've experimented a little, but not to the fullest extent, and that's because prior to this, I didn't have a whole lot of opportunities to go out and take photos. Hence why you saw so many Cumbres and Toltec charters in there. Each one was from a different year, and that was one of the only times I got to get out at that period. And when that's the only time you get to go out, you are a little nervous to experiment because you don't want to come home with a bunch of photos that you aren't happy with. You want to kind of stick to what's safe for the most part. But this was my first time going to the Nevada Northern Railway. This was in 2024, and I was the runner-up prize winner for the Young Photographer Scholarship. And with that, you get a 3-day ticket to their Winter Steam Spectacular event. And it is 3 days absolutely jam-packed with photo opportunities. I don't think there's any other experience out there you can do that has as many photo opportunities as this does. And so with that, at least I was a lot more comfortable trying out new stuff because I knew that at the end of the day, I was still going to have good photos because there's so many opportunities out there to get them. So this is where I really started to take further strides into this style of shooting. And here we have the crew topping up the water on engine 93 towards the evening, right before our night shoot that we did that day. And you have, again, that steam catching the light very nicely. And also in the background, you can see that some of the snow is also reflecting that same colored light. It's muted in a way too, where it's not the super bright, vibrant oranges like we saw on the Cumbres and Toltec. It's very subtly yellow, and I'm a fan of that too. It doesn't always have to be bright, vibrant to look good. I think with this one, since everything is overall very muted, it's very cohesive. Because not only is that sort of yellow tone in the steam muted, but also back here on the hills surrounding it, the shadows are ever so slightly blue, just like how this is ever so slightly yellow, and it works very well together. This is a shot of one of the crew members, I believe. Yes, his name is Bill McGill, one of the engineers on the Nevada Northern Railway. This one was mostly circumstance, as this was just the side that I happened to be on when I snapped it, the shady side. But I still like it a lot because of the edge lighting you have on him, but also because since I'm shooting on the shady side, he is now a lot more contrasted from the background because you have him in the shade, in the dark. He's a darker subject with the bright background. And if I were to flip around and shoot the other way, the light would still be hitting the background. So you would have a light subject and a light background, and it probably still would have looked good, but I'm happy with how this one turned out, regardless of being on the side with less light. This was the next morning. They had 93 sitting outside of the engine house, facing the engine house, and with that, the sun hit the steam very nicely. It was rising to the right side of this frame, and the colors that were here were, again, pretty unreal, not just in the steam, but in the shadows as well. It looked pretty much like this to the naked eye, where you had this almost like sky light blue color in the shadows that you don't typically see. It's typically much darker. And then this really nice yellow tint to the steam. Again, complemented by all the blue surrounding it, especially here with the mountains of the Great Basin. The snow really is doing a lot here in reflecting that blue light coming down from the sky. This is really one of my favorites from this whole trip, just because of that. It's just really nice colors going on here because of that light coming from the back. Another shot from this. This time with a crew member doing work on, I believe he's oiling. Yeah, again, with the light, a nice thing with having the light kind of come from behind when you're shooting human subjects around steam is that it works out very nicely because the steam will catch all of that light and glow very brightly, but the person that's standing within it will be blocking all of that light. So they'll be in complete shadow, and it works out very nicely in creating this nice silhouette around them. So you can still get detail around everything. So not everything has to be completely in shadow, but you can just get this one little component that is, and have it be nicely framed by this bright background behind them. This is up on the Keystone branch now, and you can see just off frame where the sun is because you can see these rays of light radiating down and see it shining through the steam from the back again. more photos from this same spot. Really like how this one looked because of the whole gradient that came through with the steam here. You have just a bright white at the very top, and then again with more of that backlighting coming through here so that it shifts down into this darker gray before coming all the way back down to the locomotive here. And again, another one without directly being into the light, but still, this is on the shady side. But I liked having the big mine that has now since replaced the original mine that the railroad served in the background, and just an overall nice scene and composition here. And so after that, I felt pretty comfortable. And from here on out, this is me just kind of like practicing and honing my the style. And here we have Rio Grande Southern number 20 at the Colorado Railroad Museum, sitting on the turntable with the light shining behind it. This was during, I believe it's 125th birthday celebration that they did. This is, again, another example of not necessarily a whole lot of color going on, but a uniformity in the overall photo. The only real prominent colors here is the blue in the sky and the blacks and grays on the locomotive and the steam. And even the blue in the sky, it's very muted. It's not super bright. And so even though it's a color photo, it looks almost monochromatic. And I like how that turned out. Another shot from that, this one, it's a bit overcast here, but this is still the shaded side of the locomotive. And you can just barely tell that if you look at the front of the smoke box compared to the side here. Namely, the number plate here is catching that light in a very nice way and looking very shiny and reflective with that brass lettering, while the side here is a lot more flat from being on the shaded side, despite the overcast weather. So with this, it's showing that you can kind of have stuff be more prominent in the photo. You can attract attention to a specific spot if you plan it out right. You can utilize that darker part of the subject that is typically avoided to accentuate the photo and take a certain component of it and make it stand out more. This is on the Durango and Silverton on a charter in May of 2024. This was simulating a modern day work train on the Durango and Silverton. So it was a mix of passenger cars and freight cars and a caboose at the end. And cabooses are really fun to shoot, especially with silhouettes, because it's such an iconic piece of railroading that anyone can recognize the silhouette of a caboose. And that's what I went for here. The train was just wrapping around the end of the High Line, the famous Durango and Silverton horseshoe curve. And no one was really paying any attention to it because, it had already passed. It was out of the good light. And so no one was really shooting it after it had gone past. But I noticed that the rock face here was helping create some shafts of light. It was not super early in the morning, but just early enough to where you can still get that. And it also helped that the lingering steam in the air was there to kind of accentuate it. And so I was able to snap this shot where you have the silhouetted caboose with the brakeman visible in the window. And despite it being a silhouette, there's still a lot of detail in it because there's still parts that are in the light. It's not a completely flat background. You have the trees and the steam and the shafts of light and all the detail on the coach here too. Another one from the Durango and Silverton, this time at Cement Wall. More emphasis on the shafts of light here coming out of the steam. Another nice range of colors happening in the steam and smoke here. Less orange and more brown and gray. but it still looks very nice and is, again, accentuated by that light coming in from the background, and you have more of that foliage glowing because of that. Here's another example of just kind of being on the shady side. If I shot on the light side, you wouldn't have this nice mountain backdrop like you do here. So that's why I opted to shoot on this side for when the regular passenger train passed us by at the Needleton siding. Back at the Railroad Museum, this time in August of 2024, taking a lot of inspiration from those photos that I showed earlier from John Gruber on this one, really leaning into the contrast of light and dark. And also at this point, I started being more comfortable turning my photos black and white in the editing process. You'll notice that a lot of them from this point on are going to be in black and white. And I find that when you shoot in this style, black and white is very good at showing the contrast and just making the light stand out even more. But here we have the dark silhouette of Rio Grande Southern 20, and then the bright highlights of the railheads reflecting that light still and providing something in the foreground other than just complete darkness. Here we got Jeff Taylor leaning out of the cab of 20 as it's pulling out of the roundhouse, using the direction of the light to make the sky pretty much entirely white and stand out against the subject that we're looking at here of Jeff leaning out. Again, shooting direct, this one is directly into the sun. It's kind of hard to tell, but this is from inside the roundhouse and is pretty much only possible because of modern day digital techniques. There's almost assuredly some photos out there from the film era that are similar to this, but with this one, balancing the exposure and shadows to be able to get all the details from inside without completely blowing out the outside. It's a tricky balance and something that you kind of have to figure out what the good sweet spot is when you're shooting like this, because you're not necessarily always looking for perfect exposure. At least I don't always do that. I tend to kind of find something that's like a good middle ground. So something to where I'll be able to bring the highlights down and bring the shadows up, and it won't be too drastic of a shift in either direction. Here we got 20 departing with the first train of the day. The flowers in this one look really nice because of that light coming in from the back. The yellow petals are really vibrant and glowing. And then you have that light coming in through the steam around 20 here, kind of creating this shroud around it like it's emerging out from a cloud. Here, this is one of the volunteers there, Miles Best. He's putting water in the tank. And this is a spot that's pretty heavily shot at the Railroad Museum in Colorado. But not a whole lot of silhouette stuff there, which is what I aimed for here. And the nice thing with this is it's a little more interesting than just a silhouette because the light is able to reflect off of this pipe here. And so you're able to get details in the pipe and on this reservoir here, and even a little bit on Miles himself too here. But, you know, silhouette doesn't have to just be a pure silhouette. You can still let some detail come through and it can still look really nice. This was during the Railroad Museum's Polar Express that they do every winter. This is volunteer Tyler O'Donnell. He is clearing out the ash pan on 491, and with the light being at his back, it got all caught into that cloud of ash that was being spit out. And so you get this nice orange surrounding cloud and just barely able to make the outline of him in there clearing everything out. Another shot of 491, this time having the sun be directly in the photo, just on the edge of the smoke box. It can be pretty finicky when you're trying to include the sun in your photos because you have to be very particular with how you place it, because if you just shoot directly into it, you're not necessarily going to get these rays of light coming out. So for this one, had to line it up to where it's just next to the smoke box so that you can get those rays poking out from behind it. Another shot just with the steam looking a nice color, and a little bit of edge lighting here on the side, and some light hitting the rails here. Here we have 491 backing up the hill to meet its consist. And again, this is just on the shady side, not directly into the sun, but look at that sky there. It's so beautiful with just the blues and yellows going on there. I had to have it somewhere in the background. And so even though the engine isn't lit, I don't think it matters too much because the sky is just so beautiful. More of just having the light coming in and hitting the steam from behind here on 491. After night had fallen, I got this nice shot again of Tyler. There's a light fixated on the water tower to help them fill up even when it's dark, and use that to get some nice lighting around him. And you can even have some of that here on the edge of the doghouse on the tender. But his hair really caught the light nicely and outlined his head, making for a really unique water filling shot. 491 in the middle of the night now, coming down the line. This one is interesting because the light is coming from the subject itself now. And so even though it may be counterintuitive to have the light be your subject, you can still make it work out, and even have it kind of accentuate the area around it. So like you have the light reflecting off of the fence here and off of the rail heads. Again, utilizing the light on the locomotive itself to get a nice starburst, as well as reflect off of the caboose sitting on the sideline here, really accentuating the texture on it. Another shot of Jeff Taylor, this time wiping down the cab. This is inside the roundhouse, so the light is coming from around over here, coming on the back. And again, very nice edge lighting here to kind of outline his the shape of him, and still hitting some reflections here on the cab, so it's still not completely flat. Here we are shooting directly into the sun. It's just off frame here, but again, beautiful sky. Wanted to get that in there, and still getting some reflections of that orange sunset light on the side of the tender, and using that to create an outline of Tyler here hanging off the side of the tender. More of that nice backlit steam. This time as they're hooking up to the consist. The steam on 491 when it's cold really likes to linger around, and so you get really nice shots like this where it's practically hiding itself. And then speaking of pretty skies, this was the most beautiful sky that I was able to get during their Polar Express runs. And the only way to get that was to shoot in the direction of it. So even though everything is in shadow here, it's still a very pretty photo just because of the sky alone. So even if the subject itself isn't lit super nicely, I still think it's a very pleasing photo to look at. Here we have 491 again, utilizing the light on it, this time to have something in the foreground be lit, this time being the plants that line the track coming up here. I really like the outline that came through with all these. And even though you can't even see the subject at all here, I still really like this photo alongside the railheads shining here. It's a very unique photo, and one that I haven't really seen anything like it. We come back to the Nevada Northern now. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I visited there again earlier this year, And I definitely took full advantage of what I had learned. So a lot of the photos that I took there were going against the light, and here it led to a nice atmospheric photo with all the steam hanging around the yard, and you can just barely make out one of their Alco RS3s doing some shunting work. More steam being backlit with after Ford or after 93 had done a run by. Wasn't the intended angle for us, but I still found it to be a nice shot because of that steam and that contrast that it gives. Here we get kind of both the edge lighting on a human subject and that nice bright white steam. This here is a favorite of mine from this trip because it's about as close as I think I have gotten to one of those John Gruber shots. You have one of the chimneys on the building here, creating one of those shadow cuts in the light, thanks to all the steam hanging in the air, as well as the caboose here sitting in the shadow, being a nice contrast to the bright white sky from the sun. This is one of the rare color photos from this type of shooting as of recent. But another thing that this style can sometimes produce is different shades of color. This Alco here is not this dark of an orange when it's in the light, but being in the shadow and having the sun be back here behind the caboose, the light hit it in just a way to where it made this really interesting deep orange color on it. More of this caboose. I really like this caboose, if you couldn't tell where it was positioned, but yeah, just using it as a foreground as 93 went in the background with more of that nice white steam. Here is probably my favorite series of photos. This was when you go to the Nevada Northern for this trip, they really like to show off the engine house in the morning because you get this really nice effect of the train coming out and all the steam shooting out everywhere. But I found myself shooting on this side instead of the side with all the light while they were doing this because of photos like this, where I was able to get the sun radiating out from just in front of it, but also you can notice down here little rays of light just catching steam ever so slightly. And again, the steam up here looking very nice and bright. Another one like that, the sun just barely poking out here. And even with a cloudy sky, the steam still stands out and has this nice white edge to it. This one here, another color one, just because I really liked the blues that were all throughout this. Again, all in shade, and because of that, it's all very blue. And the only thing to contrast it is that bit of steam coming out here with the bright white edges. More of that, this time in black and white. Again, the steam coming out and just the contrast of the dark locomotive against the brighter white sky. This is now back out on the line. And again, shooting on the shady side. We'll see that I was able to kind of get a few different styles here, but mainly for the background, the nice snow-capped mountains here. But also here with the silhouette shot, another nice silhouette shot. I mentioned cabooses are a nice iconic outline. Steam locomotives are too. Pretty much anyone, whether a rail fan or not, can identify a steam locomotive, even just by its outline. So silhouette shots are very fun to do because of that. Here we have 93 backing up for a run by, and this one I have the sun just completely in the frame because I wanted to have it shining down and across the engineer here, who is lighting up a cigarette for a quick break as another crew gets to take over. Another one outside the engine house, this time the light coming in and hitting all that steam that's just lingering around the frame of the locomotive. I really like this one because of that you have, everything else is dark, but that steam is just catching all the light and contrasting out through there. And here's the one from the opening slide. Again, this is one of my favorites. And just because there's so much steam going on, so much of it catching light, and it's so thick that you get that difference in the dark gray in the middle and the white on the outside, along with that sun poking out and showing a lot of those rays. Another one from the shady side, the sun isn't directly in front of me. It's more off to the side here, but I was the only person here taking this photo, which I was very surprised about because it's absolutely beautiful, in my opinion. I love this one a lot because of all the things that I've talked about already, but the colors, the difference in the light hitting the side here and the dark shadows on the other. Yeah, and it also managed to frame the water tower here perfectly. You have this perfect arch here created just by pure happenstance. And as we're getting to the end here, we'll wrap up with the Colorado Railroad Museum once again. This is one of the volunteers, Sam, just applying some oil. And again, the light is behind him here. And with that, that allows better contrast between him and the background behind him. This one is a bit more reminiscent of the stuff that I got at the Nevada Northern. Lots of steam was coming out of 20 as it was pulling out this day. And the light created a nice layering with the steam in the front and then 20 behind it, and then even more steam you can see back here behind him. And another volunteer, Paul, created a nice extra subject to have in the frame, more emphasized here, where the steam was perfectly framed around him. I mean, like I couldn't have planned this even if I wanted to. Yeah, just absolutely perfect timing with this and just creating a nice frame around him. And again, only possible because the light is where it was. And so it comes through and creates this bright white contrasted by the dark of the person standing in front of it. This one is over at the ash pit now. And the light, again, coming from this direction here, and it hits the side of 20 and reflects nicely off of the paint. And with Jeff walking away here, almost silhouetted, but not quite against the sky. And you can still have that light coming in and hitting the side of Sam down here, different Sam, but as he's clearing out the ash pan. More from that. Again, you have the steam over here that's creating kind of a nice backdrop or element in the background, and edge lighting along all the people standing here around watching and laughing as they watch Sam deal with the not ideal job of having to clear out the ash pan. Tyler, once again, walking away with that nice edge lighting and even a little bit of that shadow cutting through the steam and the light rays through here. And then we have Sam in the cab as they're about to depart. You got nice lighting on his cowboy hat that he loves to wear. If you see any other photos with him, and he's almost always wearing this. And it's a great little feature. But yeah, you got nice edge lighting on him here, and the light hitting all the steam, helping to contrast him and make him stand out more from everything all around it. And then another color one, this time with 20 departing once again, but just this absolutely massive tower of steam shooting out. And it's again that nice gradient that I really like, where you have the edges bright white and transitioning into this really full of texture and just different shades of gray and even brown in there, accentuated by that border that's created from the light being behind. And as it looks like we are just at an hour, which is perfect. So we are at the end of my presentation. If you liked anything that you saw here, I have created an album on my website containing all the photos that were in the presentation. The link is right there, trevorjross.com/trains/into the light. Thank you to everyone who attended, and thanks again to the Cincinnati Railroad Club for having me.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Trevor? I would have you come up here so he could hear you on the mic. Anybody have any questions for him?
When's the calendar come out?
Come here, John. So John asked in our audience, he said, when is the calendar coming out? Because pictures were phenomenal.
Well, thank you. I've thought about creating calendars, and you know what? That comment might finally push me to do it.
Question that I have, what do you use for equipment? Is it Nikon, Canon, or something else?
I use a Nikon D7100. Some of the earlier photos were with a D3300, and the main lens that I use is a 16 to 80 millimeter.
Wow. So you're very talented, I got to say, and it's just really cool to be able to see some of your photography. What are what's on your bucket list for something to take a photo of next, or a railroad or rail line or museum?
I gotta say, a lot of the stuff out east, closer to where you guys are, is definitely on my list. I would love to see 611, especially. That was one of my childhood favorites. The East Broad Top, just to see all their facilities there. Kind of similar to how Nevada Northern has a bunch of original stuff there. Those in particular are definitely places I would love to go and shoot one day.
That's awesome. Well, I thank you so much for joining us this evening and sharing a glimpse of your photography over the years. We would love to be able to have you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another presentation from everybody here at the Cincinnati Railroad Club. Thank you so much. If you ever find yourself in the Cincinnati area, certainly, hit me up. Be happy to meet you in person, and then take you inside of the terminal where we have our meetings.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. To learn more about the Cincinnati Railroad Club, visit our website, cincinnati.rrclub.org. And you can support programs like this by becoming a member of the club as well. Learn more at our website, cincinnati.rrclub.org. And while you're here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to our YouTube channel.